Ask yourself, do you ever wonder what strategies you are using when you converse to someone? Have you ever think of your role in a conversation? How about this one? How many times have you participated in a negotiation and at the end of it, you wished that you had done better and got a better deal? Now, it's time to take another big leap as you will learn the different communicative strategies which is highlighted in strategic competence. The communicative approach to language teaching has been welcomed and adopted in many parts of the world. However, as Noonan has pointed out, while a great deal has been written on the theory and practice of communicative language teaching, there have been comparatively few studies of actual communicative language practices. He has argued that language classrooms should be made more communicative and has called for research on how to foster communicative language use. Here are some of the reflection questions. How do you participate in a conversation if you are not familiar with the topic? What can you do if your listeners misunderstood you? What strategies will you use to avoid communication breakdown? As a response to Noonan's comments, Celsi Morsha, Dournier, and Thorell draw attention to a crucial and yet rather neglected aspect of communicative language skills, which is strategic competence. It is the ability to overcome difficulties when communication breakdowns occur, or it is the ability to express oneself in the face of difficulties or limited language knowledge. The lack of fluency or conversational skills that students often complain about is the underdevelopment of strategic competence. Therefore, they believe that it is important to include strategy training in a communicative syllabus. In order to prepare learners for these situations, materials developers should include instances of communication breakdowns and repair strategies in their dialogue examples because an excellent knowledge of grammar and vocabulary is insufficient on its own for effective communication. An In other words, strategic competence refers to the ability to get one's meaning across successfully to communicative partners, especially when problems arise in the communication process. Strategic competence is relevant to both L1 and L2, since communication breakdowns occur and must be overcome not only in a foreign language, but also in one's mother tongue as well. However, since strategic competence involves strategies to be used when communication is difficult, it is of crucial importance for foreign language learners. A lack of strategic competence may account for situations when students with a firm knowledge of grammar and a wide range of vocabulary get stuck and are unable to carry out their communicative content. On the other hand, there are learners who can communicate successfully with only 100 words as they rely almost entirely on their strategic competence. I will be showing you a diagram which is adapted from a well-known study by Faerk and Casper which shows an oral interactions. We could say that in oral interaction, we have some kind of communicative goal and we set out to make a plan and execute it. If we meet a problem, that is, if our command of the linguistic and sociocultural code is inadequate, we have two basic choices. On one hand, we can avoid a problem by adopting a reduction strategy. In other words, we keep our message within our communicative resources. We avoid the risk, we adjust our ends to our means. In this way, we change our goal. On the other hand, we can decide to keep our goal but develop an alternative plan. We adopt an achievement strategy. We take the risk and expand our communicative resources. We adjust our means to our ends. Our Here are some examples of reduction or avoidance strategies. Reduction strategies can affect the content of our communicative goal. We are all familiar with the essential strategy of avoiding a topic. That is when we do not feel confident to talk about it. Another, We all have the experience of avoiding our message or rounding it off quickly because we felt it was going to involve us in all sorts of problems with grammar or vocabulary. Another, the reason why a non native speaker can sometimes sound vague is possibly the fact that he or she is replacing the original meaning, the original goal, with a simpler message. Reduction or avoidance strategies are difficult to spot and are an obvious and essential part of a learner's instinctive repertoire. However, we want our students to widen their resources, to take risks, to actively expand their competence. So we shall probably be more interested in achievement or expansion strategies. We shall Here are some examples of achievement strategies. One of the simplest one can do when faced with a problem in a foreign language is, of course, to borrow words from the L1. We know that monolingual classes, such as the ones that we teach in, often use this easy way out. Also, some of our students are good at foreignizing, just like, for example, pronouncing Filipino words as if it belonged to English, or even adjusting its form to take account of typical morphological features of English. Another strategy is the literal translation. However, achievement strategies become much more interesting when they are based on the learner's actual interlanguage. That is, when learners try to use their present knowledge and skills and stretch them, so to say, to their limits. It is this active use of one's limited resources that I think we should be particularly concerned with. The first area of strategies has to do with generalization and approximation. If you don't know a word, you can fall back on general words like thing or stuff. You can use superordinates like flower instead of daffodil. You can use synonyms and antonyms like that deep to mean shallow. Of course, generalizing implies a disregard for restrictions on word meaning and word usage and can therefore be dangerous. Let's go with the implication of strategic competence. Knowing that communication breakdowns occur in authentic speech, teachers should prepare learners to respond to such situations. Teachers can develop and teach language patterns to help prevent and repair breakdowns. Let's go with the summary of this topic. Strategic competence or the communication strategies help learners to remain in conversation and so provide them with more input, more opportunities for checking and validating their hypothesis, and therefore more chances to develop their interlanguage systems. Communication strategies help them to get some useful feedback on their own performance and also to exercise some kind of control over their intake. For example, by enabling them to prompt their interlocutor to modify his or her utterances. And lastly, communication strategies train learners in the flexibility they need to cope with the unexpected and the unpredictable. At the same time, they help students get used to non exact communication, which is perhaps the real nature of all communication. They help